Okay, so today's day 3 of painting every day, and I'm getting ready to finish this picture. It actually doesn't take me all that long to conclude this one. And when it comes to painting every day, um, there's some days that I could do a whole painting in a day, and that's true. But this little painting all day is just more of a practice. It's to train myself to make sure that I get certain things done for my mental health, for discipline, getting myself to work more. Um, uh, and that is always, practice. If you force yourself to do it, you're ultimately going to benefit from it. And that's what I'm looking for. When I was working in the studio, it was easy to paint every day because um, if I wasn't working or wasn't teaching, no big deal, get it in there. It's just who I was. But with my husband's illness and stuff, when the studio closed, I definitely was not painting every day. It was still a part of my life because, as I've said before, it brings me comfort. And so, but I did a lot more just sort of messing around in sketch pads. I actually really enjoyed working with these paint markers they have out now that are just awesome. They're so nice because, unlike markers, they don't go through the other side of the paper, so you could use them in your journal and stuff like that. Um, and they give vibrant, beautiful colors to work with. So, what I'm trying to do is accomplish a certain amount of things. I have all these things in my head that I want to do, get done. And so, just like I'm making sure I do Tai Chi every morning, I'm making sure that I am painting every day. And on these rules, when I give them, these are personal rules. I say, okay, well, paint for at least 5 minutes, right? If I paint longer, great. But if I paint 5 minutes, then I'm happy. And like I said, most of the time that leads to longer. But if I did that, then I just sort of build that discipline up and make sure I make it happen. And this picture, if you haven't watched the other videos, is from a dream that I had 3 years ago when my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And it brought me back to when we were first dating. We're just going around town, and this is where he's sort of pulling me out onto a dock where we could just hang out alone and look over the ocean. I'm just trying to capture these moments. And even though this is from a dream, it's not from real life. We did this sort of thing all the time. So it is. But I've always been one who likes stories. I love children's illustrations. I love mangas. All those things, those visual books are just always add a little something extra for me. Being a visual person, I really enjoy them. They add an element that you can't get from the words, and words are beautiful. I love words as well. But it's like talking to someone in person or talking to someone over text or a phone call. Being able to have those visuals. Excuse me, I got hiccups. I got a cold. Really add a little extra something to the whole experience. And I think, it's just something that I have always enjoyed. When I was younger, I did struggle with reading somewhat because I'm dyslexic. And so I think children's books really called to me because I could get what was happening, without the words. Now, I'm an avid reader, and I have been for, a really long time, but it didn't stop my love for the visual side of everything. And so I think that I like the idea of telling stories without words, because it sort of stretches the boundary of where it's available to a multitude of people, to people who speak other languages, to people who can't hear, to people that don't read yet, to just so many reasons. And sometimes, to me, there's things that can be said in pictures that can't be said in words. There was a book called, I want to say, it was called Tuesday Morning, and there are no words in it. It's a children's book. And it starts off where there's just like one frog starts floating on a lily pad, and it just goes through all these crazy things where it's just going around town, these frogs with lily pads and people seeing them and all this kind of stuff. And there's ends up being reports about these frogs, but at the next morning the frogs are back on the ground, and all you see is lily pads all over the ground. And there's sort of this mystery of what happened, but there are no words, right, in the whole thing, and it carries you along that whole story with just those images. And I didn't actually read that till I was an adult, but again, I still am a huge fan of illustrations, and I, love reading to my kids and nieces and nephews and grandbabies. So I'm always looking for, good books. I did at one point in time illustrate a children's book with a friend of mine, and it was published briefly. Unfortunately, that's why I drove a wedge between my friend and I. It can be difficult to work with friends. There's just, you just gotta make sure you have your priorities, and not everybody can do it. And we didn't stay friends after that whole situation, and we had been friends for almost 40 years. So it was not an easy thing, and it was an unfortunate thing that just had to happen. But nonetheless, I am still love paintings and drawings and that sort of thing. So here, sort of putting in beginning stages of these lanterns that were all over in the dream. Everything just almost seems sparkly and beautiful, and it was sparkly on the water, and the stars in the sky, and the lights on the dock, and just everything had this magicalness about it. And I know on this filming, and I'll get better as I go along because I am new at this, and get better equipment eventually. But I'm dealing with what I have and moving forward. But the glare on this sort of washes everything out. So I will take all these sort of pieces. I have 3 days of this right now, and sort of speed them up into one video and show the completed work at the end as well. So I will have that out there available. I don't know that any kittens were even bothering me in this video. In the first 2, you can see they're around. And just because they're not in frame does not mean that they are not running around like little maniacs, attacking me from behind. I should have a camera for my back because they have a tendency to like to play with my hair as I'm doing things. And I've just gotten used to, ignoring them. I did have to trim their little claws because I was getting many little scratches all over because of the little guys. But they're doing well and they're getting so big. We've had them since the middle of June. And they're definitely just a lovely little asset that we have to our family. Oh, there's one. Okay, so that is number 7. There he goes. Yeah, I had to move him out of the way there. He's the biggest. He's the only boy. The other 2 are girls. Got a calico named Potato and a tabby with white paws and other markings, and her name is Little Girl. And they're sweet as can be. Those are not our only cats. We have cats all over the place. There's just 3 because they're so small. They're just staying in the studio space at the moment. And then they will have free range with all the other cats to go in and out eventually. But we're just letting them find their feet right now. They were originally feral kittens that we brought in. They sort of found us, and they wanted to be house cats, so we obliged them because we're little kitty cat suckers and we can't help it. But I am here. I'm getting pretty close to adding, sort of the final details. Now, this is not, these are real loose paintings. They're not super precise. They're not, I'm just trying to sort of get the energy of the whole thing. Alright, that's my cat sneezing over there. Maybe he's got a cold too. But trying out this whole YouTube thing has been an experience of its own. Just sort of searching and figure out what I want to do here. Stretching my boundaries. Because I've had some major changes between the death of my husband in April and my mother in June. I've just been sort of, I don't know. I'm not trying to just sort of flail around. I'm trying to direct my grief and just recovery into positive forms and doing, good things. A little easier said than done sometimes, for sure. I still get overwhelmed daily, sometimes multiple times a day. But you gotta, pick yourself up and move forward and brush yourself off and just go on. Those are the options. Okay. So, almost done here. A few finishing touches. If you're watching this stuff, I really appreciate taking the time to sort of watch this. I know doing this can be